It was a conspiracy. It was a conspiracy. I ran a speed test and I had 2 megabits just for like a minute, and then it went right back to my 25 megabits up. So there was just something going on, but we're back, and the stream should be working fine now. One of the things that I want to see is, do I need to update the link on Patreon? Give me 1 second. Yes, give me 1 second here. I need to update the link on the Patreon. 1 moment, please. One moment, please. We are almost there. All right. Yep, there we go. I see myself. And let me close that. All right, cool. We're back. No, it's that wonderful Comcast Xfinity experience. I keep saying there needs to be a second line here. I'm at my home. I'm not at the studio. And I keep saying I need to have a second business line here. Anyway, but it should be fine now. Again, I did a speed test. I think I found what the issue was. And just for giggles, I'm running another speed test right now as we speak. You might see a little glitchy while I run it. Yeah, we're good. We're solid. There shouldn't be any problems now. And the good thing is I didn't lose. The dare. Let's see here. But we should be back everywhere now. All right, let's see. Let's see what we can see. We still have the standoff going on outside the Ministry of Defense building. I know all of the traffic cameras were turned off in Rostov-on-Don. Here, wait. This is from a... do we have confirmation on this? Don't have confirmation. A lot of chatter about Chechens. A lot of them, but nothing confirmed. I'm checking intel. Give me a minute here. Just bear with me. I'm checking intel, and I'm just looking for see if there's anything here. Okay, I am seeing a video of unconfirmed, very reliable, trusted source showing a fire on the northern part of the M4 highway in the Vornazith, I hope I said that right, Oblast. By Pavlovsk. I am seeing, again, consider that unconfirmed, but an extremely reliable source. There is a statement from Prigozhin. Yes, you probably hear the very upset cat. The fighting is taking place in areas where the military leadership provides false information to the soldiers, leading to clashes. Wherever the soldiers meet us, the National Guard and the police, they wave their hands in joy. Many of them say, we want to join you. Again, this is Prigozhin, so take some of what he says with a grain of salt, but it does appear, at least in Rostov-on-Don, there's some truth about this. Already about 60 to 70 people have joined us, even though we have covered only a short distance. That actually seems very believable. I believe the entire army is ready to join us. I find that not very believable. Let's see. So, latest statement from Prigozhin. Yeah, you know what? I'll look at what TASS is saying here real shortly. We'll see what the Russian version of TASS is saying. Give me one moment here, though, as I go. We're just kind of seeing like the same things over and over again. There's like a lot of intelligence discussion. That's what I'm flipping through. There's this running stream of consciousness. Wow. Yeah, it looks like things are pretty spicy in Voronezh, again, Voronezh, Voronezh. It looks like things are very spicy there. Outside of that, wait, what we got here? No, it's still being confirmed. There's just a lot of stuff that is like still being confirmed. We're not sure. Still being confirmed. Yeah, or it's things that I've already talked about as stuff has been scrolling through. So right now, I am not seeing anything. What's this? All right, we've got a Dmitry Peskov statement. I'm not sending this to a translator. You're just going to get an AI translation. No, this is nothing. There's nothing new there. Okay, I know, like, you're like, why isn't he saying anything? All right, let's see what's going on with TASS. And give me a second. This is what I can do. We'll go like this. We'll go like this. And I'll pull this over here. And let me flip back to here. And now you can see TASS with me. Ta-da, the magic of the internet. So let's see. So this is the Russian version of TASS because the English version has different headlines, different stories, different spin. So when we do our analysis, we're looking at what the Russian version is saying. Same thing when we look at, say, like Ukrainian Pravda. They have a Russian version, a Ukrainian version, an English version. We use the Ukrainian version. Because the Ukrainian version has different stories, different headlines that are written slightly differently than what's for the English version. I've already set this up to translate over into English using Google Translate. For little stuff, we'll just use either AI or Google. For big stuff like videos or audio tracks, we have people that translate stuff for us. So you're just getting the hot take. And it doesn't actually look like that this has changed since I looked at this a few hours ago. Uh, yeah, this is completely unchanged from when I looked at this a few hours ago. There is literally nothing new here. Um, you get to see how sausage is made. Let's do a little bit of some real time looking at Intel. What has Gray Zone got to say for themselves? Gray Zone hasn't posted a thing in hours. What does Reverse Side of the Metal have to say? They have not posted anything in hours. This is so wild. Kadyrov hasn't posted anything since yesterday, meaning the 20th, my yesterday, 2 days ago, for Russia. Call sign Bruce, who is Alexander Simonov. He is a Russian propagandist, very heavily aligned with PMC Wagner. He hasn't posted anything in almost 24 hours. Awful human being, just awful human being. Alex Parker hasn't posted anything in hours. This is wild. The only thing from Redvoca is a statement that's just repeating that was said hours ago, that the claims by PMC Wagner that their rear camps were attacked by Russian missile attack are not true, that it's an informational provocation, that there is a column of military equipment near, this is literally, here's the Kremlin spin. A column of military equipment stands near the building of the headquarters of the Southern Military District of the Russian Defense Ministry in Rostov-on-Don. I don't know how they could get any nearer without driving through the front door, but okay, they're near. Against the backdrop of the current situation, law enforcement agencies are doing everything necessary to ensure the safety of the inhabitants of the region. No, they're not, because we see that there are just civilians that are gawking all around there with their cell phones out, which is why we have all these videos in the first place. And nobody should be, certainly no civilian should be within hundreds of meters of that place. There's no effort going on to secure that. Moscow is also strengthening its security measures. Of course it is, because in Russia, it's Moscow, it's St. Petersburg, and then it's everybody else. And everybody else serves Moscow and St. Petersburg. And that's been Russian culture for hundreds and hundreds of years. This isn't going to, certainly if you are pro-Putin, you're high on the anti-Ukrainian Kool-Aid, and you live in Rostov-on-Don, you have, to be very blunt, no F's to give about the fact that Vladimir Putin is in his bunker and snug as a bug in a rug and everything's cool in Moscow. You have no F's to give. And there is no mention about fighting, shooting, columns of troops moving, nothing. So that's Revoca. Revoca is, they're Russian propagandists, completely attached to the Kremlin. Royce Group, neo-Nazi, they used to be part of the First Army Corps. They're all over this. Go Prigozhin, go. They're just all over it. Let's see. Maria Bartholanova, she hasn't said anything. Alexander Kotz hasn't said anything in hours. This is wild. It's just wild. The real Colonel Z hasn't said anything in almost 24 hours. Pobedy hasn't said anything in 6 hours. Vladimir Rogov hasn't said anything in 10 hours. Rogov is a Russian collaborator. probably 20 to 25% of disinformation about fighting battles in Ukraine probably comes from Vladimir Rogov. If we see some just insane claim, especially in the Zaporizhia area, even if it's been amplified by Rybar or War Gonzo, and we're like, what? Our analysts, the first thing we do is, did Rogov say it? It's the first place we look. And if Rogov said it, it's like, it's not true. It's like, that's it. There's no other, it's done. We're done. There's no other fact checking. If Rogov said it, it's not true. Anyway, he hasn't said anything in hours. And I get that it's night, but it's morning now. Alexander Kodovsky, silent. Older than Edda, silent. This is just, they don't know what to say. They don't know what to say. Alexander Sladkov, 8 hours ago. I'll just be watching a movie tonight. Good on you. They're waiting. All of these channels are being waiting to be told what to say, because the Russian information agency and the Kremlin controlled their message. Is absolutely wild. Two majors at 16:52 hours Seattle time. No one has yet photographed Wagner columns from Rostov video. Everything is calm. Prigozhin spoke about 25,000 people so far in the Russian rebellion. The Ukraine, he uses the slur. The Ukrainians have gotten the most again. They hit enemy targets with rocket weapons. Of course, now we know that that's aged like room temperature milk. Yeah, that's just a fringy one. Victor Alkisness, he hasn't said anything. This is wild. Absolutely wild. It is like a news blackout. Oh, okay. So we have this from Shot. A decision was made to cancel all planned mass events in Rostov-on-Don, according to the governor. So, like, if you were planning to go to the farmers market at Rostov-on-Don, if they were having one, sorry, it's been canceled. This is just wild. It's like total communication blackout on all of these Russian channels. Let's see. Miroshink was freaking out earlier. He was in total freak out mode. Yeah, he hasn't said anything. The last thing was a denial from him almost 10 hours ago. And what is our friend Igor Gherkin-Strelkov had to say? Is he? Nope, he hasn't added anything to the chat in hours. Absolutely wild. Let me check another Intel channel. You're getting real-time Intel here, y'all. Wow. One of my most reliable go-to channels is silent. Governor Gladkov hasn't said a thing in Belgorod. Absolutely wild. I'm stunned. We don't know anything. The last thing we know is that his plane was over Turkey. That's the last thing I saw. I'm now going back through your comments. I appreciate everybody's patience. How much has Russia's constant lying to the Russian people limited the ability for Russia to? Oh, a lot. Massive. A lot. Absolutely massive. Alex Parker, Paul. Alex Parker, I don't know if that's his real name. He now's in Barcelona, Spain. That's where he lives. He is he's a neo-Yahtzee. He is a ultra nationalist. He fought in the Donbass, back in the day. And he fought, as a Russian soldier, and he fought side by side with some of the more Yahtzee aligned elements on the Russian side. And he's just a terrible human being. Go find his Telegram channel and read at your own caution. It's sometimes it's just, look, I'm Jewish, so some of this stuff is sensitive to me. I'll freely admit it, but it's not just that. He's just a terrible human being. But he hasn't. He actually had the best 3-word hot take on this earlier, which is basically some shit show or something like that. And honestly, it was about the best 3-word hot take I've seen on the situation. But with that said, he's just an awful person. But he is somebody sometimes you can go to and go, oh, look at this information. Let's see. Yeah, well, this has to write the case against an armed rebellion. Truth. This is Prigozhin is only the second person since the creation of the Russian Federation to face criminal charges of an armed rebellion. There was the Crossbow Rebellion, the alleged attempted coup that was going to involve crossbows in 2009. That was the first person that was charged under that. I saw the joke about. I'm reading your comments on Touch the Sky. I saw this joke post from Sputnik Bot, which is a parody Russian account. Russian Defense Ministry announces it's killed 150,000 Wagners, destroyed 700 Wagner attempts, and captured 4 Yevgeny Prigozhins. And you see, that's the problem, right? The other problem that the Russian Ministry of Defense has is all of their talking points have been aligned to genocide, right? Ukrainians are subhuman. They're less than humans. They're monsters. They're Yahtzees. They're they do all of these horrible, horrible things. And we are above and better than all of that. And the whole world is out to get us. And right, this victimhood mentality. And, we are just held back. We, the amazing, stonked Russian people. That message is just blown apart right now, where you have this. It's tough to call it what it is. It's coup-ish, but Prigozhin has not come out and said, I'm against Vladimir Putin. What he said is I'm against the Russian Ministry of Defense. The thing is, and I don't consider this a hot take. I've said a lot, like, this is a hot take. I don't consider this a hot take. I consider this an assessment. There's been nothing. Not only has there been nothing, Putin's made it very clear back in February. He picks, because Prigozhin was pushing the issue. Hey, Shoigu or me? Shoigu or me? You and me. And Putin's made a choice. It wasn't Shoigu. It wasn't Prigozhin. It was Shoigu. That's his choice. That's his boy. And nothing's going to change that. That's why I don't see what the end game is here. If Prigozhin gets a bunch of Russian soldiers and units starting to align behind him, is the hand forced? Do they? Because I don't. Everyone's like, I'm seeing from tankies and vatniks and from the pro-Russian America wing, right, that horseshoe theory, the very far right and the very far left, I'm seeing kind of like, he's an idiot. He's 12 hours from Moscow. What was he thinking? That's as close as he could get to start this. I don't think his goal is to march to Moscow and get ratioed. His goal is to pick up supporters along the way and build a bigger and bigger force that forces Putin to address, forces Putin's hand to come out and say, we got problems. And the thing is, Putin derives his power in Russia through this messaging that are used by authoritarians, which is only I can protect you. Only I. I'm the only one. I will protect and love you like nobody else. For Putin to get on Russia One and get on the radio stations and go, my fellow Russians, we got this thing going on with Wagner. And I just want to let you know that most of the military is still behind us. This shatters this authoritarian viewpoint of the only I can protect you. Well, wait a minute. Why? What do you mean by most of the military? What about the rest of them? Right. That's issue number one. The second thing is where somebody asks this, right, all of the lies. Because now he's got to come out and come up with another story, which isn't going to align with any reality, because the stories they'll be telling haven't aligned with reality, which is a big part of what Prigozhin has been saying. That was a big part of what he said about 24 hours ago in that 30-minute video that came out. I don't know. Am I still on? I all of a sudden like wondering, am I still on? Yeah, I guess I'm still on. All right. I just all of a sudden I'm not seeing any comments going, so okay, I'm on. Thank you. All right, 1 second. I thank you for that. Let me take a lookie. Because of course, Prigozhin standing in Rostov-on-Don would be flipping huge. Wow. I'm all right. I'm here. Let me pull this over. I just found this video. I'm going to pull it over. Give me a second. I'm going to swap the cameras. Give me a second. Give me a second. All right, here we go.
По нам стрелять, а мы их сбивать. Сбили? Третью. Собьем все, если вы будете их посылать. Потому что вы долбите по мирным жителям. Вы уничтожаете мирняк. Вы только что развалили автобус с людьми. И совести у вас никакой не было от этого.
Ну, во-первых, это я первый раз слышу. И Я ехал разговаривать.
Я с вами на вы разговариваю. Что
Я
вы опять
поехал.
на ты? Ну кто вы такой, чтобы со мной на ты разговаривать? А?
Никто не разговаривал. Я говорю, не надо обобщать.
Ну,
надо,
хорошо.
если вы сами просто на вы.
Да, я на вы говорю, да, с вами.
То есть, если вы говорите, не меня там, нет. Поэтому да. Ну, давайте так, все равно думать. Что делать? Что вы мне сейчас делаете?
Еще раз. Мы сюда приехали. Мы хотим получить начальника генштаба и шайки. Пока их не будет, мы находимся здесь, блокируем город Ростов и идем в Москву.
Тогда я вас просто попрошу
Да.
дать свои как-то выглядишь.
Нет, ни в коем случае. Ребята будут находиться здесь.
Нет, ну это уже вот как раз идет с точки зрения
Мы вам не мешаем управлять войсками.
управлять войсками, конечно, вы не должны мешать никто, потому что там ребята гибнут так же, как и другие все.
Ребята гибнут, потому что вы их на мясо толкаете.
Это такой вопрос.
Это вопрос не риторический. Ребята гибнут, потому что вы их заталкиваете на мясо. Без боеприпасов, без мыслей.
Well, that's
без
some terrible
каких-либо
operational
планов.
security there.
Просто престарелые
That show
головы.
should be off with the SIM card out.
Больше, что меня огорчает, что меня минимум. В Киеве был праздник 5 шампанского.
Где?
В Киеве.
Ничего страшного. Праздник в шампанском в Киеве, когда вы бросаете красные лиманы, изюмы и все остальное. Вот тогда праздник по неделе в Киеве. А мы ниоткуда не...
All right, so there you go. Yevgeny Prigozhin is just chillaxing in the middle of. He is just chillaxing in the middle of Rostov-on-Don, in front of the Russian Ministry of Defense building. There doesn't seem to be any attempt to push them out. It doesn't appear they've made any attempt to go in the building. There hasn't been any information to say that there's anybody that's in that building. So you've seen it. Russians of all flavors suck at OPSEC. They do. Very true. I mean, again, even as a conflict reporter, I'm like, your phone's off, the SIM card's out, and you have a password on your SIM card. This is just operational security 101 in a conflict zone for anybody. I'm just looking to see if there's like anything else that's coming in. There's just like a lot of stuff here that's older. Wait a minute. People are asking about Lukashenko. Here, let me. People are asking about Lukashenko. 1 second. I might have something on Lukashenko. I might have something. Nothing confirmed. Nothing confirmed. A lot of grumbles that he is on the ground in Turkey. A lot of grumbles. U.S. State Department. Oh, that would. Don't get me started on F-16s and A-10s. Don't get me started on that. Wow. All right, let me see. What I'll do is a quick round robin next. If I'm not seeing like any other fresh intel. S-300, S-400 air defense equipment is being repositioned in Moscow. That's confirmed. Not surprised by that. One second. I got something else. No. Yeah. Okay. Oh, nothing new there. I'm just on Luca. We want to be right over first. And with that said, a lot of chatter that Lukashenko is in Turkey, but nothing that can be confirmed. But just not a darn thing that can be confirmed. So, all right, let me do this. We're going to flip back. Yes, Wagner has air assets. They have Su-25s. They have Mi-8s, helicopters, and they have Su-24s, and I think Su-27s. But yes, they have air assets. They do have their own air force and pilots. Ukraine should have gotten planes like a flippin' year ago. It's such a frustrating issue for me. You've got no idea. All right. Let's talk about, while we're waiting for some more news possibly to come in, let's kind of talk about where fighting was going on in Ukraine. And the answer is there was fighting that happened here in Ukraine. Again, you're going to get an idea of the sausage making that goes on. I am literally just going to start flipping through the raw intelligence reports, and I'm probably going to murder, unfortunately, some of the names of these cities and towns. Now I have to use my broken Ukrainian. I can read a little bit now. After 18 months, I can read a little bit. All right. This isn't a consolidated report. I'm just going to go line item by line item. So this is the Ukrainian General Staff. In the Kupiansk, just airstrikes and artillery. So Kupiansk operational area, not a whole lot going on. Only fighting in the Svate, Kremina, Lychansk operational areas, and Seversk of Luhansk was in Bilohorivka. It does appear that Russian forces, after Ukrainian troops made some advances up on the ridges, it does look like Russian forces took those positions back. No real significant change there. We're talking 500, 750 meters. This same area has been moving back and forth for about 5 months. That's verified, by the way, because I saw that earlier and by someone on the team, and that's 100% verified. Bakhmut, I know there's been like a lot of reports of fighting. I'm going to circle back on that. Avdiivka, that Vodiane, no man's land fighting there. And up by the Vesele area, so southwest of Avdiivka, fighting going on over there. None of that I would call intense or heavy. In the Marinka area, there's fighting continuing there. North of Marinka, yesterday we reported that Ukrainian forces had broken through essentially the Minsk II border and captured some strong points that Russians have held since 2014. They've pushed about a half kilometer past that point today. That's geo-confirmed video on that. So I saw that intelligence earlier in the day. I wouldn't get too excited like, oh, is Ukraine making a play towards Donetsk? I think what's going on here is they're putting more and more pressure on, they're turning this very small advance that the Kadyriotes were able to make in Marinka. They were able to move about 200 meters. But by pushing to the north and the south, they're starting to make that a salient. And I think the idea here is either to get them to slip back to the east of Drewsby Avenue, or to reallocate forces to those flanks to start defending those flanks. Because remember, what's Ukrainian strategy here? Ukrainian strategy is always not to go after the hard point. It's always to go around the hard point or draw things in. I heard 5 seeing your comments here. This is hysterical. I heard 5 Wagners. I will close up talking about ZNPP because I know we kind of put out, and like this whole ZNPP story, right, has vanished and what's going on in Russia. And no, this isn't some Prigozhin manipulation. In that's way too much 3D chess. The Russian Ministry of Defense has not shown any capability to play that degree of 3D chess. Fighting in Makarovika, that's south of Velike Novosilka. You know what? Let me do this. Because then I know people are visual and I have the map. So let's pull up the map. We'll pull up the map. Give me a second. We'll pull up the map. Boom! There we go. We got pulled up the map. So then people can see what I'm talking about. Oh, I was conveniently located right where I was talking about. So Ukrainian General Staff is saying that Russian troops try to... actually, we'll even go like this. And give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. There we go. We'll go like that. So they're talking about here, Makarovika. So they're saying that Russian troops tried to push without success in that direction. And that's it. Now that's their morning report. Let me go to the evening report, because Ukraine does 2 reports a day. I'm just skimming real quick because what I'm doing is I'm kind of filtering. Like I already talked about that, so yeah, they attacked that same area again. All right, let me go back up to. Let me go back all the way up to Kharkiv. Russian forces allegedly tried to push towards Sienkiewicz without success. More fighting at Bilohorivka. So that's here. And that fighting is going on in this area. Russian forces have moved. The map isn't adjusted. Russian forces have moved to this area. They've taken this back. But this is that area where that fighting is going on. And that's the only thing that was going on in that area. Bakhmut direction, Russia, no offensives. In Avdiivka. So I'm moving the map. We'll come down here so you can see that. And Avdiivka, we're continuing to see fighting in this Vesele area right here. Vesele is this little tiny village on Google Maps. The name for it doesn't even show up, but you could probably see the actual outline of the administrative borders of Vesele. And then there's this fighting in the Vodiane no man's land right here, which this is a day that ends in Y. There's fighting there every day. All right. Yeah, Marinka, what a surprise. This is this area where I was talking about the Minsk 2 line. So Ukrainian forces have moved even further. I'll turn on the view, the terrain view, so you could see what I'm talking about. There's this railroad track, this forested railroad track. And so Ukrainian forces have pushed to about here. it's a salient. It hasn't been updated in the map yet, but we have geo-confirmed that they're in this area. And if I scroll out, you can see this is where Marinka is, and so they're pushing into Donetsk, and they're expanding this flank where this is Drewsby Avenue. And over the last 20 days, the Kadyrov's troops have moved about 2 blocks forward. They also have gotten squeezed in this direction, and they've lost a little chunk to the south of Marinka, meaning the Kadyrov's troops in this area. And go ahead and flip back to the terrain view, because my understanding is the terrain view is a lot easier for people. And we'll collapse that legend again. Yeah, Novomikhailov right here. Day that ends in Y. Russian troops trying to advance on there. Same thing, Velika Novosilka. There is fighting that is going on through the day with Russian forces trying to push back into Makrovka without success. These are not, I haven't seen anything that shows like really, really big fighting today either. Admittedly, a lot of my brain cycles have been going on what's going on in Russia. All right, that's what they had to say. Let's see if Deep State has any other color commentary to add to this. Doesn't look. Klishevika around Bakhmut. Fighting is continuing west and north of there. There are reports from Russian and Ukrainian sources. Let me go there. There actually could be a big deal here. There are reliable reports from Russian and Ukrainian sources south of Bakhmut. This one's interesting. There's 2 things actually south of Bakhmut that on a day where we wouldn't have a coup, civil war, insurrection going on in Russia, we would have dived into. And let me pull this terrain map, because the terrain here is really important. So let me pull this terrain map up. And then I'll collapse that so we can see a little bit of what's more going on. So the word is that Ukrainian forces have advanced to part of this tree line here. So almost to the train tracks. But what's really critical is, and I'll zoom in a little bit more, this area right here is the high ground. This is the high point for this, not just over Klishvika, like this whole area. This is the high point. And Ukrainian forces, as you could see, are basically just pushing through the trees or following this wood block right here into this area. And you can actually see here, right, where the hill's going down. Right, this is the top of the ridge. It is all downhill from this side. And these trenches that you could see from the Google satellite image, these are Ukrainian trenches going back to 2014. All of these, of course, right now are Russian occupied. Ukraine is just anywhere from a few hundred meters to 1,200 meters. Over here, they might be as far as 1,200 meters. Over in this area, right, we're just talking to here. When and if Ukraine secures this area, it's not going to be fun anymore to be in Klishvika because they're going to hold this high ground, and they are just going to be able to start plinking the Russian forces that are here. And again, very solid intelligence from Ukrainian and Russian sources, but not verified for tonight. that there has been an advance here. The other thing that we're hearing in the Bakhmut area is that Ukrainian forces have expanded this line. And again, what we're showing is, remember, this is yellow. So yellow means this is no man's land. This is gray zone. But what we are hearing is that this area that's gray zone has now has collapsed. And this area here is now solidly in control of Ukraine. So these wood blocks, this side of the dam, and along the railroad line and this tree line. That's what we're hearing. So that means all you've got is the village itself, which is gray zone, and then you're at the MO3 highway. And if Ukraine gets here to the MO3 highway, this village is untenable. Because how does Russia supply this? So this becomes an untenable position. If Russia withdraws from here, you see what happens to the whole northern flank. It's gone. There is no more northern flank. It's gone to the highway. And all of a sudden, because what Ukraine is doing here is rolling the Russian advance backwards. As soon as this falls, this is no longer tenable. Because the ground line, this was the same problem Ukraine had. When Russia captured here, this is the ground line of communication. This is how you supply the Russian troops when Ukraine held it, the Ukrainian troops. Once this is cut, and you can see how close it is to being cut, and it's already not fun driving on this road. But once this is cut, unsustainable. So this area, hearing Russian-Ukrainian sources, significant, again, kind of this taking control of a pretty big chunk of the gray area, up to 3 square kilometers, is what we've heard. And if I didn't have high confidence, I wouldn't share it. And it very well could be fully confirmed. I'm just going through what the notes were earlier in the day when I looked at them. And is that kind of it? Yeah, that's kind of it. So let's see. Let's see what the Russians have to say. We'll go ahead and read the comedy report from the Russian Ministry of Defense. What's been gleaned out of there, which isn't going to be too much. See if they're saying anything interesting here. They're reporting fight, same thing. Marinka, Podolmaiske, no man's land outside of Avdiivka. This is what the Russian Ministry of Defense is saying. It's been shocking. There's been a fair amount of, if you read our situation reports, you've probably seen over the last 2 or 3 days, in a couple of areas, this is really unusual. The General Staff of Ukraine and the Russian Ministry of Defense in their reports, at least where the fighting is going on, they've been very aligned, which is really weird. And it makes our job really easy. It's like, okay, the Russian Ministry of Defense said there was fighting in Marinka, and the Ukrainian General Staff said there's fighting in Marinka. That's good enough for us, because Russia's saying Ukrainians, done. We don't have to do any more digging on that. It's when we have, okay, Rybar said there's fighting and nobody else said it. Now we got to dig. That's the difference. But when you get multiple independent sources that are saying the same thing, that's part of journalism. We got 2 independent sources saying the same. Check. Yeah, and then they're just, they're doing this whole thing about the Ukrainian sabotage and reconnaissance groups, where we're always like, all right, what does that mean? What does that mean? Russian Ministry of Defense is saying Ukrainian reconnaissance sabotage groups working here, and Ukrainian sabotage and reconnaissance groups working here. And that's all they had to say. Rybar's gotten their quality's gotten so bad. They're on the brink of We're not going to listen to them anymore. Um, I'm flipping back to your questions real quick here. I'm curious how much Ukraine will push back once Russia gets really destabilized to keep as this keeps going. That's a really good question. I had talked hours ago about how Russian logistics are now a hot mess because of everything that moves through eastern Russia is cut off now. And they have their problem down at the Chongar crossing between Crimea and Kherson. And that's a major supply issue. Took the outdated ancient snooze scroller off the bottom. Sorry about that. I thought I had turned them off on all the views. That was just an outdated scroller. No, Wargonzo's not dead. He's very much alive. He's a couple of videos with him in the last 48 hours. He's very much alive. I have to admit, I'm sidebarring. When I saw that video, it was just, sent to me like, hey, here's this amazing video, close combat fighting in a trench, special forces. It's intense. You may see some things that are yikes. Anyway, when I saw that video, I paused. Definitely. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Rewind. Okay, pause the screen. All right, let me take a screenshot of this and zoom in a little bit. I'm going to throw this into Photoshop. Let me see if I can clean up, because it was blurry and all. There was a lot of rolling shutter blur in that. See if I can clean this up just a little bit. And I was like, this is close, but the beard, I know everyone's like, no, the beard's the same. This dude had the dude that we saw in this video that got his head taken off. His beard, Pagos's beard is like this, and this guy's beard was like an Amish dude almost, right? And started up at the sideburns and went this way. And Pagos's beard isn't like that. That was the first thing that jumped out at me. But it did give me pause, and particularly when I saw the gray pants and they weren't. I know people were like, wearing sneakers. They're not sneakers. They're actually, I guess, they're kind of some. What I understand is they were kind of like some high-end tactical-ish light footwear. And I have to admit, the gray pants and the shoes, because I have seen Pagov wear similar shoes, gave me additional pause. But the thing for me in the end was the beard line. The helmet didn't fit right. Pagov definitely knows how to wear a helmet. And the color of the plate receiver. So that's what body armor goes in is the plate receiver. It was the wrong color. Pagov has the same one. It's dark green. This one was a very light green. And it just wasn't Pagov's plate receiver, the one he wear. And I was like, I don't think so. Full stop. As time kept going by and we weren't seeing anything, and I was like, maybe I wrote this off too soon. But no, my instincts were right on that. And there was debate on the end. It was like, is he, isn't he? Let's let the clock run. All right, so what does Rybar got to say? Ukrainian units are increasing the number of daily attacks on the Kursk region. Crimea, same thing. I've already talked about fighting. This is wild. There's really good alignment, which makes my life really easy tonight. Bilorevka, we've already talked about. Marenka, we've already talked about. Novomikhailov, we've already talked about. Makavrovika, we've already talked about that. Rybar claims there was some fighting at Novodonetsk. Yeah, probably. Fighting south of Orhiv. Same thing. Rybar is just still in denial. There's no denial like Rybar denial. And then the last thing I'll talk about is Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. And then I'll see if there's anything else about Rostov-on-Don, and then we're going to call it a night. There is no denial like Rybar denial. Rybar is just clinging to Ukraine doesn't control this village. They're still fighting for it. I'm like, dude, there's videos of Ukrainian troops evacuating civilians, providing humanitarian aid to civilians they can't evacuate. The Russians are releasing videos of shelling Ukrainian troops. You don't control this area anymore. Give it up. But, all right, I'll give it to him. He's clinging. They're clinging to it. All right, here's Pegoff's hot take on the situation. Hot take, you're getting this as I'm getting it. It seems strange to us. So this is a Sayamon Pegoff of War Gonzo. It seems strange to us, the mass absence of symbols of PMC Wagner, both flags and chevrons, from those who take the buildings under control in Rostov. Well, this is far from the only dubious detail in everything that happens. An armed rebellion in any case can lead to uncontrollable and much more dramatic events than in the Special Military Operations Zone. Now, of course, only the Supreme Commander-in-Chief can be truly legitimate. This is Vladimir Putin. Come to our rescue, O Tsar, O benevolent leader and lover of our people. His assessments will be fundamental, and only he is able to resolve the conflict fairly. There you go. You got your Kremlin talking points. I said this earlier about Russian society and authoritarian rule. Who can save us? This is Samuel Pegoff. Only Putin. Nobody else. We're waiting for Putin. In the meantime, there are too many inconsistencies in this whole story. A lot of muddy. The logic of what is happening is not clear to anyone. Therefore, we consider information hygiene a top priority in the current situation. In other words, you should only really trust what Putin has to say. I have news for Samuel Pegoff. We've seen the video of Yevgeny Prigozhin sitting outside the front door of the Russian Ministry of Defense, the headquarters of the Southern Military District of the Russian Federation in Rostov-on-Don. Bro, cope. Yeah, you're going to have to cope. That's like, when did he write this? Oh my goodness, this was released less than 90 minutes ago. So we'll say that's a hot take that did not age well. All right, the last one I'm going to go through. What did War Gonzo have to say about fighting going on? I have a feeling, again, it's going to be all of the same thing. Let's see. Russian troops tried to push back here, and Ukrainian forces tried to put... And Ukraine has actually had very good success advancing on from Orikhiv towards the direction of Nova Paprika. They're having really good success over the last couple of days. They've actually moved up to 2 kilometers in the last 3 days. And just to give you an idea on how good this has been, again, let me go to the terrain view. So the line of conflict is along this tree line. So you've got this ridge, and then you're in the village. You're in the town. So that's kind of where things are at. And again, this is the line of conflict. So think, right, all of this area is no man's land. So you've probably got Ukrainian forces that have moved down this tree line, that are here, and this is the area, just so you understand our map, this is the area where Russian and Ukrainian forces are trading those positions. And so you've got Ukrainian forces up here, and then where's Russians? They're on the edge. They're on the northern edge of the town. That's where they're at. So things are going a little better than advertised. They're not going as well as people want, but they are going a little better than advertised. And Ukraine's had some success there in the last 72 hours. That's been ignored in the news cycle. Yeah, we heard about this too. That's interesting. Wargonzo was talking about this. Rivnopole, right up here. We have this. If you ever see a village, again, you guys are getting some inside track here. If you ever see a village and we have the line going right through the center of the village like that, that means there's fighting for control of that town or village. That the whole town itself is in no man's land. And again, if I go ahead and if I show you the terrain view, come on, there we go. You can see we've got that line riding right through the village. And then again, that you have this very, very broad no man's land. And really what's happening here is Russian and Ukrainian troops are moving back and forth on this line. But we did hear that Ukraine has pushed in this area. The other thing is when you look at the map, this is starting to become a salient. And the road that would come up and supply this town used to run through here. So this road is cut off. There's really nothing here but tracks to supply this. So pretty untenable location for Russian troops. And I have a feeling there's not going to be anything else new from here. Yep, Novomikhailov, Marinka, Avdiivka, up by Vesely, north of there, shelling. Bilohorivka, moving in the direction, yep, in that northeast corner that I talked to, and that's it. It was kind of a quietish day on the battlefield. And I know there was a missile attack. And let me see if I can find any intel, at least on like number of missiles, intercepts, etc. Ukraine's gotten super tight with that. So boom, there we go. We're back. Gray Zone is saying Wagner took control of an airfield. And Gray Zone, I give a lot of weight. Gray Zone has been they've been a damn reliable source, especially when things are bad. When things are going bad for Russia, Gray Zone is shockingly reliable. When things are going good, they tend to overstate the good. Oh, here, one second. Oh, I don't know. Wow. All right, let me pull this video up. This is so wow. This is wow. This is wild. There won't be audio with this because of the way that I have my settings. But this is pretty wow. Let me flip over. That doesn't help. All right, here we go. This is in Rostov on Don. This car has Wagnerites in it, and over here is the Russian Ministry of Internal Affairs, their police. So this is this vehicle. They're just stopping, and they're just literally saying hi, and they just say hi to each other and like have a good day. I did know enough Russian when I heard the audio on that. I have the audio disabled on Telegram because it's annoying to get all the pop-ups and alerts. Anyway, I wanted to share that video with you. Oh no, this is real, Justin. This is real. This is not some 3D chess thing. Prigozhin has been at war with the Russian Ministry of Defense since November of 2022. He has been hinting that this is going to happen. We've been evaluating and saying that this is going to happen, and here we are. Am I surprised? Of course I'm surprised. I didn't expect... I watched the video last night, of Prigozhin and what felt like I'm breaking off diplomatic relations, like this preamble to a declaration of war. When I watched that video, I mean, we called it was shocking. I mean, that's what we put on our Twitter. This is a shocking video. But I didn't expect to wake up to, so is there a civil war? Is there like a civil war? Oh, wow. There's like a civil war. Did not expect to wake up to that this morning. Morning my time, because I'm on the west coast of the U.S. All right, so Prigozhin says they have control of the headquarters of the Southern Military District, according to Gray Zone, and a video a video statement from Prigozhin. I will have to send this out to get it translated. I can give you just the quick dirty from Gray Zone. Announced the control of the building of the headquarters itself by the Russian volunteers of the Wagner group, as well as taking control of the airfield in order to prevent the takeoff of combat aircraft, but noted that this was not to hinder logistics and ambulances as part of the mission. I don't get it. I don't get it. Like, first of all, hinder logistics. If Russia thinks like they can fly ammunition and weapons into Rostov-on-Don to that airport now, wow, I would love to talk to them about oceanfront property opportunities in Arizona. Would love to talk to them about that. I guess what they're saying, Abe, flying, I would presume flying wounded Russian troops out. That's what he must mean by ambulances. Yeah, that would make sense. If I don't see Prigozhin being so naive, not to think that an IL-24 hospital plane that lands to pick up patients is not full of Russian special forces. Or VDV just ready to go at it. I don't think he's that. I hope he's not that naive. I don't think he is. It's on. This is so wild that this is on. Oh, and I got a little distracted because I saw your comments. I will see if I can provide anything. I know there was a missile strike in Kyiv or a drone strike. It's a little unclear. The video picture I saw real quick, it looks more like a drone than a missile. It also could have been debris. Dnipro was very heavily attacked. 9 cruise missiles, 3 drones shot down. This is coming from Ukrainian sources. The word I'm seeing is 8 victims are known, and then says 4 people are hospitalized. I'm going to say 8 victims means injured, not dead. 8 civilians in the Dnipro area. 4 private houses completely destroyed, 25 damaged, 5 outbuildings, gas pipeline. There was another arrival on a infrastructure object. Infrastructure object could mean a lot of different things. I'm not seeing anything about power outages. So Dnipro hit very, very hard again. It looks like this was a pretty big missile attack. It looks like they tried to hit the Ukrainian air bases in the west again with cruise missiles and not successful. They're saying that a Russian cruise missile rocket did hit a building in Kyiv. 2 dead, 8 wounded in the Salyamonsk district. As part of debris falling on the 24-story building, destruction and ignition occurred on the 16th, 17th, and 18th floor. Major damage in the parking lot. Consider this confirmed. It does not look like we have a count or have a count. Let me look one more place. I'm going to check one more thing for analysts to see if they dropped a message there. No, we don't have a missile count. All right, let me go back here. This is interesting, Michael, where you're saying I would have thought he'd fallen out. I'm a little surprised that Putin and the Kremlin, this is kind of their fault. They let this drag out. They let Prigozhin run wild for months, and he escalated and escalated and escalated and escalated, and they didn't do anything about it. Yeah, I said I was going to talk about Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, and then I think I'll do one more quick scan for any confirmed intel, and then we're going to call it a night. And I'm actually going to embrace the fact I get to go to bed pretty early. And I think I'm going to order a pizza because I'm hungry. And I don't feel like cooking now at this point. Why is Putin not defending Russian territory? Because he can't. And it sure looks like the Russian troops there are like, yeah, come on in. Prigozhin's our boy. Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. I know yesterday that we hinted, and I can't get into it. I can't share the information. Okay. But I will say in Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, we had very specific information from somebody very connected that in a conversation let something slip that provided direct intelligence on how serious the threat was being taken in Kyiv. And I know, like, what is it? Operational security. The other thing is if I got into more details, I burned a source. My business is all about trust. I'm not going to get into the other stuff. My business is all about trust, and I'm not going to burn my contact sources. And the other thing was, that, again, it was something that was probably said in passing that I shouldn't have been said to me. But it did kind of make the hair stand on the back of my neck. Like, oh, okay. Because let me give you one example. Energoatom was making this claim that Russia was going to evacuate all of the employees back on May 8th, right? They made this claim that Russia's going to force evacuate all of the employees out of Enerhodar. And I was a flat no. And the reason I was a flat no is when I was in college, I don't know, do I have any? I was going to pull up the coffee mug, but I don't see it I don't see it on my fingertips. I interned at Public Service of New Hampshire. Public Service New Hampshire was a power utility that was building a nuke plant. The nuke planting had finished it, and I wasn't there because I was college intern for project management with them. They were building a nuke plant, and I was college intern of project management there. So this is an area, despite the fact that my knowledge in this space is ancient. You don't just cold shut down reactors and say, okay, everybody goes home, it's good. No, you need thousands of people still at a plant the size of Zaporizhzhia. You need thousands of people to keep that plant maintained. To go, oh, wow, we lost electrical connection. We need to turn on the generators, inspecting the generator, all of this stuff. And that's why when they came out, it's like, and I think we even prefaced in the situation report of, normally we kind of let this stuff go, but yeah, they're not going to do this. And I know in the comments on our Patreon that a couple of people in the power industry fact checked, and they were like, yeah, I asked so-and-so, and they were like, spot on. That's not going down. There's been some other things where Ukraine has said, hey, there's going to be a provocation here or there. And we haven't reported on it because it's like, it feels a little flimsy. this threat isn't flimsy. Don't know what the nature of the threat is. What I do know is that the Ukrainian government was taking it incredibly seriously. And they had, according to Kyiv, numerous conversations with allied nations, with nations of the G7 and the G20. They said that they were talking to countries that were, so-called neutral. I think that implies China, because China, the word is that China went to Putin like in October, November, and was like, you have to cool it with the threats. You have to cool it with the nuke threats, okay? You're looking like I'm heavily paraphrasing. You're looking stupid. It's not cool. Powerful countries don't do this. Stop. And it did seem like the rhetoric dialed down. Now, in the last week, the rhetoric's been turned up to 11 again. The other thing is with the clear evidence at this point, now that we have 2 weeks of clarity, we've got additional, we can see the underlying structure at the dam, that it does very clearly appear that Russia blew up the dam. It is 99.99% certain. I will continue to say the final certainty is on-site inspection with engineers, study. That's going to be months and months away. And it will take a long time to do that. But the bulk of the evidence is Russia blew up the dam. The discussion of intentional or accident is just academic. Russia blew up the dam. And if they did that, then I would say they're very capable of doing something at ZNPP. I personally, so opinion, and that's opinion. Here's my next opinion. I was extremely disappointed in the last statement from Director General Rafael Grossi of the International Atomic Energy Agency. I was incredibly disappointed with his statement. I thought it was weak. I understand where he's coming from. This is probably going to make some Ukrainians mad. I do understand where he's coming from. This guy, think about who he has to work with. North Korea, Iran, right? They're in Iran. They got to work with North Korea, Iran, China. He's got to work, Russia. He's working with countries that don't want the IAEA around. So the IAEA, to support their mission of at least making sure that something insane isn't happening, has to do this political theater. But what I've seen happening in this, we don't want to make Putin mad. People need to get over this, clearly, because Putin is weak. The emperor has no clothes. This wouldn't be going on in Rostov-on-Don if Putin was a strong leader. Putin wants to be like the next Stalin, the next Peter the Great. He's delusional. You could power the entire Russian Federation on the energy Stalin is making right now on spinning in his grave. We all know what Stalin would do with this. Stalin would just line up 200 people on a wall. Done. It's over. Done. See? That's what you do. Well, Putin wouldn't do that. Hell, he wouldn't do that. Fine. He'd get 200 people and say, drink the tea, or I'm going to put you on the wall. Oh, it's unbelievable. I don't know how this happened. The tea was bad. I didn't drink it, though. That's how they do things in the 21st century. But Stalin's got to be spinning in his grave on just how weak Putin's position is here. But this last statement from the IAEA is just so weak. We went to this Zafras thermal plant and saw the switch yard, and they said they were going to fix it. And it's been 4 months, and they showed us some debris, and they claimed it was from Ukraine. And I get it. He's not a weapons inspector. His lane is not battle damage assessment, not in the sense that he can look at a transformer and go, yeah, that transformer is FUBAR. You got to replace that. But he's not an explosive ordnance disposal expert. He can't look at that transformer and go, That transformer was hit by a 155 millimeter Excalibur shell fired by NATO, from NATO ammunition. That was definitely Ukraine. And there are explosive ordnance disposal people on the planet that are that good. And that is not to say that Ukraine did it. I don't think for 1 second they did. It's an example. But I think that he's, again, playing this theater so that he can keep his inspectors at the plant. The minute he says, there's a thing like, yeah, there's landmines and we're about the landmines. But, if they were to go off, it's not going to affect plant operations. Dude, just come out and say it. The landmines don't belong around the plant. Just come out and say it. Because it's true. It's flipping true. But you won't even come out and say that. So we're back to this whole appeasement. Oh, we have to appease the Putin. We have to appease the Putin. And I think this contributes to the potential for something terrible to happen at ZNPP. So that's what we know. The biggest thing, and again, I'll just repeat it, that made my hair stand up on my neck was this very specific intelligence on how Kyiv was responding to the threats. And I know there's something, no, tell us. I'm not. It just, dude, then it's trust me, bro. If I feel confident enough and trust me, bro, I'm just going to come out and say it. So, what do I think? I think I just addressed it. What do I think of the fact that Putin's nowhere to be? I think he's weak. I think he's weak. And I think they're figuring out what to say. Because anything they say is going to go against 20 years of propaganda. Literally will go against 20 years of propaganda that they have fed. Prigozhin is a hero for a lot of people in Russia. This is not like Gherkin. Like if Gherkin was doing this, that'd be it. Gherkin would already be worm food. That's why Gherkin and his angry patriots haven't done anything like this. He'd already be worm food. Prigozhin's a hero. People like him. He comes across as the everyman. He's more approachable. He talks like the average Russian. I have been told by every person who are natural Russian speakers, every person who has ever translated a Prigozhin video for us has said the same thing. That listening to him talk is like nails on a chalkboard. That he talks, the only equivalent I could have for the United States is like Tony Soprano, Hitman, Goodfellas, Mook, New Jersey street accent. That's what I'm told it's like. It's like this Russian, uneducated gangster cadence, accent, intonation, and it's just nails on a chalkboard to listen to him talk. Every single person has told me that. No, you don't need to I already said this earlier. No, you don't need to dig your background bunker. You do not need to be worried about some big thing. The chances of something happening are low. Whoa, let's back this up. I am not saying that something terrible is going to happen in ZNPP, today, tomorrow, next week. But what I am saying is that the percentage is never zero. Kefkova Dam's a great example of that. The percentage is never zero. If that percentage, say, was below 1% on a day by day, less than 1% per day, based on what I heard yesterday, it seemed to me like they felt maybe that went up to 2% or 3%, which doesn't sound like, but it is a lot. But no, this is not like end of the world. It is interesting. The other thing I found interesting yesterday is that there were statements coming from the United States and one other NATO country that's escaping me. Forceful statements. Like, we just want to let everybody know if something happens at CNPP and there's a lot of radiation, that's Article 5. We're going to push Article 5 in NATO, which of course then is you're at war. You're at war with Russia. So it is interesting to me that I know what I know yesterday. We've seen the escalating rhetoric. We know because Ukraine said that they addressed members of the G7 and the G20 nations. They said including those that pretend to be neutral, which seems to hit at least China, maybe India, because China, as I said, has been reported to be the back door on nuke issues to Russia. Like, whatever you're thinking, don't, because it's not going to go the way you think. It's not. So we have all of that. And then we saw this statement that came out from Lindsey Graham and Blumenthal, Senator Blumenthal from Connecticut. And there was one other NATO country. I think was it France? I don't have the notes. It was yesterday. And there's so much that's happened today. I don't want to get it wrong. But there was another NATO country that was, hey, it's going to be Article 5 time if something happens or if you use nukes. Something happens at the CNPP or you use nukes, we're pushing for Article 5, which seemed to be this. That tells me that the intelligence community outside of Ukraine saw something or was looking at the intelligence shared with them, and it made the hair stand on the back of their necks. Enough to go, don't even think about it. But we're still in this stupid, don't make Putin mad. No, we don't want to make him mad. Like what? What is he going to do? Go to a lower level in his bunker? Because that's what we're seeing right now. Is Putin going to come out, see his own shadow, and say there's 6 more weeks of special military operation and go back to his bunker in 6 weeks? Putin's speech in 20 minutes. Eddie, right now, I would say yes. There's no indication that this mutiny, insurrection, civil war, quasi-coup, it's not going to, we talked about this earlier, it's not going to take long to really start messing with Russian logistics. 3-5 days. It's just 3 to 5 days. And it will start hurting Russian logistics at the front lines. And the first thing that we'll start seeing is rate of artillery fire is going to start to go down. We'll start seeing complaints about fuel. We'll start seeing complaints about food. And we'll start seeing complaints about drinking water. Ironic. So ironic. Especially like in Western Zaporizhia, right? In areas where they had a big Hawking reservoir until they blew up the dam. And the other thing, right, of course, all those tributaries now are polluted and deadly and dangerous, and have all sorts of, because the flows are so reduced in those tributaries that were going in, and there's no backflow anymore. There's not that higher water level to kind of slow, so they're just draining out. And the water that's left behind is stagnant and gross, and you get thirsty, you start doing desperate things like drinking brown, crappy water out of a muddy river bottom. And then bad things happen. You start getting sick. Not necessarily like, cholera's, you don't get, a myth about cholera and like dead bodies. That's like a myth. You get cholera from dead bodies. It's possible, but that's actually not where cholera comes from. That's because there were cholera rumors in Mariupol in May and June of last year. So I educated myself on, all right, so how does, oh, wow, it's not a body thing. It's just a gross, nasty water thing. And it's in gross, nasty water. Water with bodies can be gross and nasty. So that's where the connection comes from. Is that so negotiating with deputy manager? What's he going to be negotiating with? What's negotiating what? That's kind of interesting. I find that a little hard that he's negotiating because they've called right. There's the FSB wants him arrested. So I find it I find it a little hard to believe. Yeah, there's no way he's negotiating surrender. Trans-Baikal territory. All right. So out in eastern Russia has spoken. Governor there has asked, has made a statement, urged the residents there to remain calm in connection with the incoming information and practice information hygiene. So we're seeing kind of more and more regional governors are stepping up now and going, all is well, everything's calm. Something's because of the silence coming from somewhere. Oh, wait a minute. I'm seeing one second. Okay, no, it's just speculation. Here, one second. I think I might have a translation. I have a translation, but I've got to ping somebody. I'm like, yeah, this is. Moscow was being blocked. We already knew that. Prigozhin is saying that they're headed to Moscow. I love you guys. There's just on the European team is waking up, and so there's just like a lot of questions and a lot of hot takes, and I'm wading through that. I have a translation, but the thing is, and I just sent a message like, "This is fantastic, but what video? Like, what's the translation to? Like, what video is this?" It does look like a Russian helicopter may have been shot down by Wagner. I would move that up from moderate confidence to high confidence, but unconfirmed. High confidence, unconfirmed still. But it does look like, I'm looking at a video, and it does look like a helicopter has been shot down. So... Okay, so there's a video apparently that isn't attached of Prigozhin walking with someone. I'm just going to read the transcript. So it starts with intelligible, and then what we can hear Prigozhin saying is, yes, we will kill them all. If you keep sending them, you don't think twice about killing. You have zero morals. You just blow up a bus of civilians. Then somebody says there's like a conversation, and then he says, who are you to talk to me with the familiar you? I was just talking in general. Okay, to be clear, you will speak to me with the formal you. Then, okay, let's discuss what's going on here. Once again, we came here, we want Shoigu. We think it's pretty obvious. We want Shoigu. We are staying here until they are delivered. So that they, Gerasimov, Shoigu, it seems like his beef is more than just Shoigu and Gerasimov. So I'm not sure what he means by they. We're staying here until they are delivered, and we are blockading the city. If they are not delivered, we are going to Moscow. Well, the city needs to be run. You can't bring chaos to a city. Prigozhin, the boys aren't going anywhere. Under no circumstances am I moving my men unless they are delivered. So Shoigu and ensemble. But do not worry, we are not getting in the way of how the city is run. We are here for a purpose. Aren't you worried about the boys at the front? Prigozhin starts to interject, and then someone else says that was a rhetorical question. Prigozhin cuts him off. This is not a rhetorical question. You are pushing the boys out there into a meat grinder without any thought, training, or supplies, like some prehistoric clowns. And then Prigozhin, becomes exasperated. Says, you were talking about throwing your confetti and sweets into the crowds. Bread and circuses reference. We aren't moving because of that. You could do that uses word that could, mean like later. So this might have been where they're saying that people, Prigozhin is negotiating. That might have been that negotiation conversation, but I saw somebody in comments going that Prigozhin. So that might be the transcript of that conversation. But again, that's not a negotiation. That just sounds like you're not respecting me. You call me sir. I say metaphorically. You refer to me in the formal you. I'm not your friend. That's part one. And we're not going anywhere. Bring me Shoigu and his minions. What is Putin's current location? Which Putin? That's the other crazy story from yesterday, where Putin was at 4 places at once, according to the schedule from the Russian Ministry of Defense. From the Kremlin, it's like, oh, Putin's live here, and Putin's at a conference here, and Putin, literally, Putin was in 4 places at once yesterday, which is impossible. And there are, I have been the whole, oh, come on, body double thing. Seriously, I'm just that's just a little cucumber tinfoil hat for me. Yeah, I could see body double, in the distance, waving, we don't want somebody dropping a drone on my head thing, but body double, and also Mariupol, that was one where I'm when he was in, that was another one where I was like, I don't know if that's Putin. It kind of, it doesn't, sort of, not really. That was one but there were several Russian mill bloggers yesterday of wait a minute, how many Putins are there? So where's Putin? I don't know. Is Putin alive? Are there clones of Putin? Which Putin's going to get up in front of TV? It's pretty wild. There are 2 U's in Russia, one formal and informal. Then he definitely wanted the formal one. He made that very clear. A respect thing in Russia. He's demanding respect. Thank you, Greg. Greatly appreciated. Him talking about morals is rich. Oh, ain't that the flippin' truth? That's like Rybar, that video where everybody thought Pegoff got offed. And everyone was, Rybar was, oh, they're defenseless soldiers. How could they do that? Rybar is the one that anytime a hospital gets blown up in Ukraine, Rybar is one of the first. They go, well, there might have been Ukrainian troops getting treated in the hospital, so that makes it a legitimate military target. Like, oh, just dude, just. Prigozhin's just all in. There's no walking back from this. Prigozhin's a wanted man. He is a wanted man for inciting armed insurrection. Forget inciting; it's on. They were shooting at each other. There's really strong evidence. I said this about 10 minutes ago. At least one Russian helicopter aligned to Russia has been shot down. High confidence, based on what I saw, that happened. We're past the. Okay, this was just I was having a bad day. I was having a temper tantrum. I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. I got reached. We're past that. There's no going back now. There's no backsies here. Oh, I think there's got to be a fifth column. I think people that are just kind of dismissing, like anybody that's like, oh, Prigozhin's an idiot for doing this. Why? He's 12 hours from Moscow. This is dumb. This is going to be done in a few. Prigozhin's a lot of things. Dumb is not one of them. You do not go from a convict in prison for 8 years. And the word is he was a crest. That's what the word is. And he was a crest. You don't go from being a crest in a Russian penal colony for 8 years and selling hot dogs on the street to one of the most powerful, if not say the second most powerful man in the Russian Federation. If you're dumb or you're being used as a puppet or you're stupid, that's just ludicrous. He's smart. He is wickedly. You don't manipulate elections in France, Brexit in the UK, United States election. I didn't say completely alter the outcome. I said manipulate. Absolutely was spreading tons of disinformation and manipulated 2016 election in the United States. Absolutely manipulated Brexit. Absolutely manipulated French elections. Absolutely involved in trying to destabilize Moldova. He's bragged about it, Moldova. He's bragged about the work that the Concord Group did in the United States. He's bragged about interfering with the Brexit vote. You don't do these things when you're stupid. You do these things when you're very, very smart. Duarn, what's? Oh no, Duarn's a good guy. Duarn's a good guy. Unofficial analyst. There, I would. Well, he would go. No, I'm not. Yeah, I know. You're like, you have like 1.5 feet in the analyst circle. Duarn's like honorary analyst. He does say rumored. He says rumored now up to 3 shut down. 1 or 2 combat firefights with mod units. Definitely, I would say we're past rumored on, like we talked about that. There's definitely been one. And there's pretty strong evidence. I brought this up maybe now 50 minutes ago that at least one helicopter appears to be shut down. Mac and I agree with that. That goes back to he's not a stupid guy. He had to have been lining things up. This has gone, let's look at the beer hall putsch, Hitler's beer hall putsch in Germany. He's had more success right now than Hitler in the beer hall putsch. Certainly like another one that comes to mind is like Valkyrie. That's different because, right, that was a strike right at Berlin trying to take control of that. And that's not what he's trying to do here. So that's different. He's certainly having a lot better luck than the insurgents in the United States. So January 6, 2021, this has gone much further than that also. This isn't like going to go away in 4 hours. And there's no backsies. Prigozhin is not going to say he's going to make a mistake. Prigozhin is not going to say, all right, Shoigu can stick around. Our view as an analyst team, let me go ahead and read it. I read it earlier. I'm going to read it again. Russian Chief of Staff Gerasimov and Defense Minister Shoigu are some of the best allies available for the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense due to their acceptance of systemic corruption, political infighting, waste of military resources, and refusal to adapt to the realities within the theater of war. Oh, wow. Franco's coup. That's Brian. That's a good analogy. All right, so allegedly Putin's going to start talking. I'm going to presume it won't be translated. Only thing on TASS is Putin will make an address soon. The time has come, and the time has come to act, and to act fast. I'm leaving. Points if you know what the line that what movie quote that is. Yeah, the Franco cool is Charles de Gaulle comes back to France, I think from Algiers. Yes, it's from Blazing Saddles. That's from Charles de Gaulle. I believe he was in Algiers, and there was a coup. It's called the French Crisis of '58 to depose Franco and put de Gaulle in power. And so that's what that's about. And the concern was, I know Algiers is involved in this. Somebody here. Eduard, that's some interesting color commentary on your part about who Prigozhin was talking about. Yeah, Kadyrov is not a person you want to be appeasing. And I'm sorry, we were talking about Franco in Spain. The old Saturday Night Live gag. Franco is still alive. That went on for years until he wasn't still alive. That's wild to me to think that he was alive in my lifetime. It's a whole total sidebar. Let me see if I can find a source for Putin's speech. The problem is finding something that will be translated in real time. That's going to be the bigger problem. And for copyright reasons, like for Sky News, I can't. I wouldn't want my intellectual property stolen. So I'm not going to steal their intellectual property. what I can do if it goes on, and if there is a translation, I can either like, okay, everyone, Sky News, and I can kind of the other thing I can do is if there is anything else that goes on. Um, uh, it is we're 3 minutes past when he's supposed to speak. Greg, I don't know. Sorry, I've missed this question about Wagner sharing base. Sharing bases, absolutely. We don't know where. Providing security and support, I don't know, especially where this whole relationship, right, kind of fell apart. So I don't know. I don't know. This just in, General Francisco Franco is still dead. Probably the city. Yeah, they're showing this same video. This translation of I'm wondering, like, we played this video that was like about 1.5 minutes long, where Prigozhin was sitting with two guys, and I'm wondering if that was that video that we have the translation on. Oh, it's stunning to see how weak Putin's response, the Russian Ministry of Defense response to this is. It is stunningly weak. And here's the thing. How long did it take for the Kremlin to respond to what's happening in Belgorod, where you would think they'd be able to respond like that based on all the rhetoric? It took almost a week. I mean, if they wait a week to, have a organized military response to this, if they wait a week, Prigozhin's going to control 20% of Russia in a week. Every hour that goes by, Putin gets weaker, Prigozhin gets stronger, just from the optics. Yeah, Charles, absolutely. 90% of Russia's military is in Ukraine or supporting the mission in Ukraine. Active duty military, spot on. 100% spot on. Just checking something here. I'm just checking something here real quick. Wow. Tons and tons of comments. I'm still not seeing anything about Prigozhin's speech, Pooty Poot's speech starting. I know people were saying, like, I heard this conversation, like it was Trump. I was thinking George Bush 41. I was talking to my buddy Pooty Poot. He says he's got this under control. Good. John McCain, John McCain was, boy, was he right. He was just, I look at Putin, I see 3 letters, KGB. That's something that McCain said. And one of McCain's last interviews, like 2015 or something, he kind of just predicted all of this, based on the weak response of 2014 and the Crimea and all. Yeah, Daniel, to really respond with troops that know what they're doing with weapons that are actually going to fight, Russia basically is going to have to yank people out of Ukraine. I talked about this hours ago. This stream, the second stream, this has gone on for a long, long time, and that's why I say I am going to pull the plug here in a couple of minutes on this. I just don't see conscripts, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kids who, look, we know they went through the terror of the grandfathers. They didn't get any real rifle range time or any kind of army training, sir. His picture report, yeah, here's a picture of them on the rifle range. I sold all their ammunition for profit. But here they are. They're holding the gun. Yeah, they're trained because that's what they do. These guys aren't, what are you going to do? You got Wagner's coming at you in infantry fighting vehicles and a T-90 tank. And they know what they're doing and they're on a mission. Most of these conscripts are going to go, yeah, you know what? I'm paid like the equivalent of $200 a month US. This is not in my pay grade. You just go right on by. Just please leave me alone. And here's the thing. The more that Prigozhin passes these groups, and just like, yeah, you're cool. You don't shoot at us. We're not going to shoot at you. That's going to spread. That word is going to spread. And Russia, like we already know, Russia has like no sense of defense in depth. There's no first guards tank army to protect Moscow. The first guards tank army is destroyed. That's what the first guards tank army was for, to protect Moscow. First guards tank army, one of the most elite units. They were completely obliterated a year ago. There's nothing but old equipment and scrubs now in Ukraine. They don't have like resources. The Praetorian Guard, the Amon and Sobar troops that are loyal to the Russian Ministry of Defense and Putin, they're in Moscow. They're in the city of Moscow. But if Prigozhin, that's the big if they don't bring Shoigu, they're not bringing them Shoigu. That's not happening. If Prigozhin starts moving and other Russian units start to fall behind in support of him, and he rallies them as a leader, that this is just, that this is righteous, that Putin is being lied to, because he seems to be, like Putin's still my boy, right? The enemy is Shoigu, the enemy is Grizz, and I actually think there's some truth to that if I look at it through a Russian lens. And that's who our war is against. We're not against Russia. And here's, what's the other thing? I'm doing this for you, young conscript. I'm doing this so you aren't sent to the meat grinder in Ukraine, not yet at least, because when I'm in charge, I'm going to send your happy ass to the meat grinder in Ukraine. But I like literally that's the narrative in the back of my head, in the back of his head. Oh, young conscript, I'm doing this for you. And if you just do this one thing for me, and you stand with me on this glorious day, this St. Crispin's Day, these few, right? The chosen lucky few, and men will call themselves weak, for they were not here with us. Prigozhin's kind of the guy to we've seen this, to rally people. Come on. Shoigu's, look, have you heard Shoigu talk? He's got the charisma of a wet sponge. And Putin doesn't have his swagger and command anymore. Putin isn't as charismatic as he was 10, 15, 20 years ago, even 5 years ago. Putin's starting to look like a tired old man, like me. I look like it because I am tired. Yeah, gray zone. When things are going, and if we don't see Putin here in 2 minutes, I'm going to call the end of the stream. Is it like legit stuck? Oh, wow. Uh, I don't know. Is it legit stuck? Oh, it actually does look like it's legit stuck. It looks like it looks like Wagner's down a tank. Self-inflicted. Putin's got one more minute to come on the air, and I'm going to call the stream then. Yeah, you're welcome, everybody. We've done this once before. I know we did one more live stream on a day where it was like today, where it was just insane. There was so much news, and the problem is, like, if we tried to write this in a situation report, it would just be backspace, delete that, start writing again. We have more information. No, delete that again. We got more right. We've seen as this kind of goes out. The thing that's good, in that there isn't a written situation report tonight, is that the battlefield in Ukraine, the operational temples appear to be. The weather wasn't good across Ukraine today. There's a lot of thunderstorms, a lot of rain. There was flooding in a number of places. We're not talking mud. We're not talking major tractability issues, but the weather was pretty crappy with thunderstorms in a lot of areas, and that probably contributed to the lower operational tempo. And that's good. That there really wasn't any. I pointed it out, right? Ukraine made a little advance here. Russia made a little advance there, and we'll get that. So the good news is it doesn't feel like there's a big catch-up report tomorrow. We're now 15 minutes. Let's remember, I just had this. Remember Putin was going to make a speech? Do you remember this? Putin was going to make a speech. Something was going on. Oh, and he didn't show up. It was a no-show. Putin was a no-show. Do you remember this? It was a big deal, right? He was going to make some big announcement, and Putin did not show up. Eddie, I always say it's not just me. I'm going to dance on this topic lightly. I'm not throwing shade. Anybody who thinks or claims like the whole team quit and there's just like one person now writing 50-page situation reports on everything that's going on in analysis. Anybody who believes that, I would love to talk to you about oceanfront property opportunities in Arizona. Ground floor. I can get you a place next to Cary Lake, spot 3 lots. Promise. I can get you a lot right next to our house. Would love to talk to you about oceanfront property in Arizona. If you think one person is yanking all this out of their rear end. Yes, it's me and my clones. Ukraine helped me with the biolab. I also, there's a joke among the analysts and also in a Discord that I spend a lot of time in, that our map, because our map, like our war map, I love our war map because, well, I'm biased because the team does a great job with it. It really is brutal. Like our line of conflict, I know we don't have a lot of layers and detail. That's going to change very soon. We're moving to like a real map, a real tool. But our line of conflict, is it accurate? And I always joke, the new joke right now is, well, we have hedgehogs. We have a whole army of Ukrainian hedgehogs that work for us. They are paid in beetle grubs and worms. And they see all and know all. And they let us know through the little hedgehog network by listening underground. And like, oh, no, that's Russian voices. Okay, we have to let the malcontent know the Russians are here. It's not hedgehogs. It's a lot of work from people who do really good geolocation work and terrain analysis. And the other thing is looking at Sentinel and looking at NASA firms. But terrain analysis was a game changer when we moved to that almost a year ago. one of the things I started looking at on maps is like we were seeing lines just going through a middle of a field. And it's like a middle of a field's not, and I know Russia's been building trenches in the middle of fields now. And it has screwed up our map in a couple of places because it's like unbelievable. They built trenches in the middle of an indefensible field. Of course they did. Not too many places where that happened, but it has been, oh, wow, we got a line going through the middle of the field. Great. But for the most part, like 98%, those battle lines are, on tree lines or, defensible territory. And that's really the real reason why our map is our line of conflict is so accurate. And that's why it looks weird. You see a lot of line conflicts that are kind of curved, and ours looks very jagged in places. That's because of that terrain analysis. It's like we're following tree lines. That's where that's coming from. Yeah, I saw that, like the tank stuck in the building. I'm like, oh, dude, how Russian. I shouldn't laugh. I mean, I shouldn't laugh. Right? Come on. Ukraine had a very rough day on June 4th. With their first outing with Bradleys and Leopards, they had a verb. But Prigozhin's not even 24 hours into his coup, and they have metaphorically high-centered a tank between two buildings, and you just have some guys kind of looking like, okay, now what do we do? Yeah, that's an oops. Thank you, Mac. Oh, and thank you on the receipts. You better believe it. Throw the Golden Gate in free and you get a deal. Brian, outstanding. Go ahead and send me a message. I definitely think I can get you the Golden Gate Bridge. Might be able to get it for you cheap. All right, everybody, crazy day. I'm going to call it. We're not seeing Putin's speech as of right now. If I'm going to go order a pizza, literally, if something big comes up, we'll either do a flash report. If it's just huge and monstrous, I may pack on to another life. As I always like to close the podcast, there's so much terrible in the world, and I wallow in a lot of terrible. Please be good to each other. Life is too short to not be good to each other. And if you're dealing with something you can't be good, just let it go. Just let it go.